it off like CP3. Shawty, she calling me MVP. I be on time, it's something you ain't never seen before. They call me the Dama, really want my whole team to score. Damn, yeah, too icy, yeah, too clean, yeah, my zone, yeah, 2-3, yeah, got shooters that hit from deep, bust like Giannis, yeah, too mean. Bright lights like we at the garden, on P, don't get me started. Whole team walk in, we the party. If I can't make the play, I'ma lob it. If you jump, that's right on your head. Had to put him to sleep, go to bed. I'm a star, drop 50 and left. From the logo, like I'm Steph. Put it up, knock him down every time. Going hard like my life on the line. Catch me on the course, I would've dime. Never losing, I put it on mine. Had to get out my shell, I've been laying low. They get real when it comes to the playoffs. You fight with me, know it's a KO.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
Ladies and gentlemen, from La Casa de los Lobos, the Pit, here at the University of New Mexico, let's get ready to rumble!
Hitting you with a triple hey there. My name's Ryan Tamori. Welcome to a special edition of the Pit Press Live. I know we don't normally come to you in like an afternoon or on Mondays at all, but myself, Jacob Neff, and Rick Thompson will be in Las Vegas. Neff and I will be there tomorrow night till Thursday night for Mountain West Conference and West Coast Conference basketball media days. I wanted to recap The Air Force game, talk some other football, college football. I'll pick Ned's brain. I'll pick Ed's brain on various other things. I'm already getting the Dodger hate or Met hate in the comments section. Busy show today. And before I get to our ads and the guest list, I want to introduce, as always, one of the usual suspects here on the Pit Press Live, Mr. Ed Nunez. He's the voice. Excuse me. Let me backtrack. He's the voice of the Western New Mexico Mustangs, Lobo fan since 1970. Mr. Ed Nunez. Ed, how you doing today? Thanks for joining me on such short notice.
Well, I don't know why you're getting the hate, man. The Mets, they're winning, so, and then plus the Dodgers that have 23 consecutive innings of 33, not allowing a run. So the Mets stopped that, and they should tie it up after today. So there's always haters, though. Remember, the Cowboys lost yesterday. I wore my Cowboys shirt to the gym today, and some lady said I had the nerve to wear it. I guess so, but that's life, man. When you're a fan of a team, people give you the hate.
When you win and lose, you wear. I mean, that's how I always am. I don't, as somebody who is born and raised in Albuquerque, but my New Jersey roots, central New Jersey roots, are deep. Last night was. I'm trying not to curse as much on this show. It was painful last night between the Giants game, which. Even as a Giants fan, that was one of the worst football games I've ever watched. I cannot believe they don't flex stuff out earlier. I'm assuming when the NFL made the schedule, they thought it was going to be much better. As much as I love baseball, I would have rather watched baseball. And I know Mr. David Canyenda isn't listening, former UNM basketball player. The Mets, the NLCS game 1 and that game last night made me want to watch the NBA. That's how that's how bad it is.
You hate the NBA.
I don't hate it. I love the Knicks. You know, I love the Knicks. Again, Jacob and I are going to be out of town. We're going to be in Vegas. We are going to be coming to you live from Resorts World sometime on Wednesday afternoon. That would be West Coast Conference and Mountain West Conference Women's Basketball Media Day. We're going to try to talk to Mike Bradbury, Vinay Cumber, and I forgot the other girl's name there, Lara, one of the other players. I'll look it up. I apologize. God, I'm a fantastic host today. And then Thursday will be Men's Media Day. We're hoping to come to you. I'm saying come alive. Hoping to broadcast live at parts during the day. That way we can get you live guests like Nico Medved, head coach of Colorado State. Everybody's favorite. He's my favorite. I know Lobo fans don't like him. Leon Rice. You can go back You can go back on our podcast channels, anywhere you can find a podcast. Grab our interview with him. I know it was last year. He was fantastic. We talked to Danny Sprinkle. We had no idea what it was going to transpire there. If you're looking for who is going to be at Media Days, it's online. From UNM, obviously, head coach Richard Pitino, Devin Dampier, Donovan Dent, a lot of double D's. Devin Dampier, Donovan Dent will be there. Nelly Jr. Joseph will be there. I'm excited for UNLV, Kevin Kruger, Dean Thomas Jr., and Rob Wally Jr. So excited for that. Our guests today, I wasn't going to do the show without guests, and I'm very happy to have they've come on the show. They've been guests on this show previously on my show, especially when I had the show on 610, and happy to finally go up against whatever that show is on 610. I'm going to be very kind about that. That starts at 4:00, and that's the last I'll say about that, Ed. 4:30, Ned James, former New Mexico quarterback, played the year I was born, and I think 86, 87. He's coaching the NFL. He's the best. He knows football in and out. He's coached at the highest level. I think he's had one or two appearances in conference championship games. I know he was with the Titans in the 2002 AFC title game where they lost to Oakland. Oakland. 5:00, and I've got to make sure I've got it right. Shannon Kelly from Nevada Sportsnet, and 5:15, Jason Turner from the Logan, Utah Herald Journal. Very happy to have those guests on tomorrow night. Usual time. Eric and Rick are going to host. I think Ed, you'll probably jump on. Nick got married. Congratulations to your son, Nick Nunez, again. I don't know if he's back from his.
He is. Back.
Yeah, well, maybe he'll join you guys. Kevin Sweeney from Sports Illustrated, who's been a friend of the show. Appreciate him. I asked Ben Wysong to come on. He does have a job other than watching football. He was at Oregon and Oregon. He was at Ohio State at Oregon on Saturday. He was sending me pictures. I didn't bug him for a shirt that game. I have a history with Oregon. Thank you, Mike Loxley. So busy show today. I wanted to talk football because I think there's a little bit of buzz. Before we do that, I got to thank the people that pay our bills. And I'm going to remind you, as I'm all over the place, this is what happens when I have coffee. 4:30, Ned James. 5, Shannon Kelly, Nevada Sports Network, and Jason Turner. He's living in a dream. Oh, what is it? From Pirates of the Caribbean. You're living in one. This is Turner. I pull that joke on him all the time. I'm failing right now. I'm as cringe as Frank Mercogliano. All right. I want to thank Affordable Service Heating, Plumbing, and Air Conditioning for HVAC needs in Albuquerque and the Rio Rancho area. Affordable Service has been in business in New Mexico since 1986 and is still locally owned. During that time, they've served more than 40,000 customers, providing complete residential, light, commercial HVAC services, including heating, cooling, electrical, and plumbing. Affordable Service takes pride in its staff commitment to the Albuquerque and Rio Rancho community. So much thanks to Affordable Service. Of course, Affordable Solar, too. They're two different companies. Affordable Solar does solar. Turquoise Desert Tap Room, Dulce River Bakery and Coffee, and Tim Baca Jr. and Tim Baca Sr., Tim Bacher, over at Hydro Bar.
Yeah, Hydro Bar.
I'm losing my mind. I know I'm going to get the updates. I'm going to start here before we talk global football. Mets are lucky today. Doc is incompetent about who to put in pitch sometimes. Landon Knack is horrible as a Dodger fan. No, yeah, well, we saw that coming. My friend Gil is a dire Dodger fan. He texted me that. I was like, hey, I took the under in this game, so it's going to be 21-17 Dodgers. Manaea is out of the game on bases loaded, no outs. Fantastic. Really good to go. There goes my under. Bottom of the 6th. All right. Ice baby. Stop collaborate and listen. Ice is back with a brand new invention. And I'm going to start with this. We were both at the Lobo game on Saturday night. It was a 52-37 win for Bronco Mendenhall. It's his first conference win as the Lobo head coach. This Lobo team has scored 50 in back-to-back games. It's the first time since 1916. Luke Weissong had a punt return. Devin Dampier counted for 3 TVs. Again, UNM won 52-37. We know that offense is not the question. Defense is, dear Lord. It was a little bit better, I think, in the first half. Air Force still had more total yards, but Ed, I wanted your overall thoughts on the game.
Well, a couple of things. UNM, you mentioned, scored 50 points. In great article today by Sean Ryder in the Journal. I read that, and he even went back to 1916, and they had beaten Northern Arizona 108-0. Heck of a good work there. Of course, he's football back then was not the football that we're seeing today. But you and I sat next to each other, and I think one of the things I said to you was twice New Mexico stopped them on 4th and 1, forced a fumble. That's good for the defensive unit. They hadn't done much of that. They didn't get off the field on 3rd down, no sacks, no interceptions. So they did force a turnover. UNM scored on 7 drives. Donovan Dampier is one of the players in NCAA that has scored, has ran for 7 and passed for 7. I thought he was efficient. He rifled some passes. I thought he looked really good on the run. And Jason Beck, the offensive coordinator, I saw Ned James, who we're going to have on here at 4:30. Saw him in the parking lot afterward, and he loves when he'll let him explain it. As you said, he coached wide receivers in the pros, and when he talks about football, I may think I know a little something. I don't know what he knows. He knows a lot, and he really likes Jason Beck in the way he's calling this offense. The offensive coordinator. He also thinks that the line is good, and that Dampier has avoided sacks because he's elusive, and he's right about that. There's been times he's ran here, ran there, and sprinted out of the pocket and made a play. I thought the running game, I thought the offense was good. I think what worried me, and I turned to you and I said this, was that grinded out first drive that Air Force had, 16-play drive, and they scored. And I said, here we go. I think that's what I said. I said to you, here we go again. I think the thing that are concerning to me, my wife keeps wondering why I get so mad, because she said they won, and she's right. But you and I are hard on our teams. You're hard on the Mets. You're hard on the Giants. I'm hard on the Lakers and the Cowboys. And I thought the defensive – and I think what I read from Coach Mendenhall is they lose focus a little bit in the fourth quarter, and they did that against New Mexico State. And those 2 touchdowns kind of bothered me, the late touchdowns, even when I got home. You and I left the game at about the start of the fourth quarter. And so but they won. They won, And the offense, it's obvious, can score with anybody. We've seen that. They can put points on the board. So that's good. And the defense still has a ways to go. We saw that. And Christian Ellis quoted in the paper today, we need to finish. We need to concentrate better. And I think I got to just say this, that Coach Mendenhall, who I have the utmost respect for, I thought by now, after the bye week and getting more guys back, on defense, that they would have a little bit better showing. So, they play Utah State, and Utah State's reeling a little bit. But look at the schedule that Utah State has played. They've played some really tough teams, too. We have to look at that, too. And I think New Mexico has a good chance to win and keep winning. And if you look at that first game against Montana State, that was a loss that they may look back on later and say, hey, man, if we'd won that, maybe we would have gotten into a bowl. It's not over yet. Yeah, you mentioned Washington State's going to be very tough for them to beat, and I think you're right. But overall, I thought it was I'll give them a grade of a B-. They won the game, but I think the defense has a ways to go still.
Well, we weren't going to give grades, but I'm shocked that you gave them a B-. I'll give my thoughts here. And I didn't mention at the opening of the show, talking about Michael Cooper, who was inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame. I'll get your thoughts on that later, Ed. I think that's a big deal. And I have always said it's not necessarily a statistics thing. Can you write the history of said sport without the name? Doesn't really mean the numbers. I know what I'm gonna sound a little biased here. It's the Terry Bradshaw factor. His numbers weren't astronomical, but can you write the history of the NFL without Terry Bradshaw? I throw Eli Manning into the mix. If he had one, I would say no. I say yes because it's two great runs and who he beat along those runs. And it's just not Brady, especially the first run. Jeff Garcia, Tony Romo, Brett Favre, then Tom Brady. And then the second one was Matt Ryan, Aaron Rodgers, Alex Smith, then Tom Brady again. I try to think of, you could even throw Matt Ryan in there. I wonder if you can write the history of the NFL without Matt Ryan. Maybe not.
You might say Phillip Rivers too.
Phillip Rivers is probably borderline. Can you write the history of the NFL without him?
One more thing, I hate to keep throwing these names, but Jim Plunkett, people making, and I got to say this though, I'm a big Plunkett fan. I don't know that his numbers get him in, but he won 2 Super Bowls. He did.
And that's the Eli factor. Can you write the history of the look at how Tom Flores look at how long it took him to get in. I think if you're a history buff like I am and you like the history of the NFL, I don't know, winning 2, I just don't know how you don't throw him in the Hall of Fame with everything he's done. I know once he was a backup and he came in late in the season, I think for the Raiders in not 79 or 80, 79.
Yeah, no, it was. You're right.
79, yeah.
And won it in 80.
When they beat the Eagles.
Yeah, Dan Pastorini actually broke his leg, and Plunkett, who was thought to be done, came in and took the Raiders all the way to the Super Bowl, and so then he won again in 84 or 83, I believe, against Washington. So he's got 2 on his resume, and they talk about it. I don't think he'll get in. I don't think the numbers again or overall numbers will put him in, but his name is always brought up as well.
I'm a big backup quarterback guy. For reasons, his name's Jeff Hostetler.
Yeah.
And I'm funny with the Eagles. I never want to see them win, but that run that Nick Foles went on and everything that he was, all the adversity that he faced, I was kind of happy he won. And then obviously you got Jason Kelsey. We're probably better for it. Anyway, we got off subject there, and I'll get to Michael Cooper after we have our guests on. I just wanted to say this about Lobo football. Again, 50 points back-to-back, first time back-to-back since 1916. This is an offense that 2 years ago, and I'm going to steal words from Rick, was putrid. They have scored 31, 39, 19, 21, 50, and 52. I was really kind of blown away by what they did to Arizona. I thought it was it was fantastic. Devin Dampier is probably the best quarterback they've ever had. And I think if he stays and makes his case, he's probably going to be up there as one of the best Lobo football players ever. Obviously, Danny Santiago Don Perkins, Brian Urlacher, Don Moore, everybody that has their names retired. But I think if he decides to stay, I think it's going to be up there. I think that's kind of a big deal. I don't know. They're kind of fun to watch. If you're a betting guy like I am, to take the over, it hits every time. It's not boring football. It's a lot of fun to watch. And as we've preached on this show, I think one of the things that Rick, Jacob, Eric, I have talked about is seeing Luke Weissong come back and do what he is doing. I think that is fantastic. He had his second punt return of his career. It was the third longest in UNM history. I think, and I saw my arch nemesis on Twitter at GWade49 tweet out, "Hey, it's a pretty good crowd." My mom and my kid went to the game. My mom and Mary and Aiden went to the game, and my mom was like, "Hey, it's a pretty good crowd." The announced crowd was 15,561. And if you looked on a TV, because we have TVs in the press box, everybody's got YouTube TV now, so I just threw it on my laptop. The crowd, to me, my opinion, didn't look good at all. I don't know how you feel about that, Ed.
You and I, we're always up top, so I can't see below me. We see across. And, I couldn't really see. My wife said she was watching it and it looked like there was more people. But, it was really good meeting your son, by the way. What a cute young man he is. But, you know what? I thought, I think I told you. I think when we sat down, I said, what do you think? How many are they going to get? I said probably 8 to 10. They'll announce 11. And so what was it, 15? They said 15?
15,561.
More like 13, 12, maybe?
Probably, yeah.
Okay. You know what? They won. Hopefully people start coming. I just want to make another comment. You mentioned Donovan Dampier. Is he better than Stoney Case?
Devin Dampier. We're mixing up people. I don't want to do disrespect to them. I did it too. Devin Dampier.
Was he better than Rocky? As a quarterback. Rocky's a pretty good quarterback. Now these are questions, rhetorical questions, which need no answer. Was he better than Stoney Case? And again, I think he's great. But I think those guys, Rocky was pretty good at running the option, got a contract to go play in the Canadian Football League. He wasn't a passing quarterback. So we'll say, Dampier's, he might be a better runner than Rocky was. Rocky was a pretty solid runner. But Stoney Case got drafted by the pros. Is he as good as Stoney was yet? I don't know. Stoney was pretty dang good. So, I would say, yeah, he's got the potential to be. But there's not like a string of great quarterbacks here. Steve Meyer, way back in the day, got drafted by the Seattle Seahawks. There's been some good quarterbacks. Lamar Jordan was a triple option guy. Casey Kelly, was Cole McCamey. What do you think about McCamey? Where does he rank? He played. Is he a game manager? He wasn't a great runner, but a decent pass. Is he a better passer than Dampier? And these are just rhetorical questions, man. I think Dampier is going to be great. I really do.
I do too. I wish Ben was coming on because I would like to figure out or pick his brain on how this defense gets better.
Ned will tell you.
Yeah, Ned. Well, we'll ask that for Ned, and I just doing a great job hosting this show, as I always do, which is shitty. It was 24-17 at half. One thing, I don't know if they would have done this under Danny Gonzalez. There were a couple of key 4th and 1 stops. I forgot where they were. I think they were during the course of the first half and early in the second half in the third quarter, because we left after the third quarter. I mean, it was a blowout, and if you had the over, it just kept padding it on. So it was nice you'd already won. But I don't know if necessarily, and we love Danny. I always have to preface it. I'm a broken record on my own show. I don't know if Danny's teams would have gotten a stop there sometimes if they would have stopped them on 4th. They had a big stop on 4th down against Montana State, and I don't know if there was anybody in the crowd that was thinking, "Oh no, here we go again." I think they've kind of learned their lesson from Montana State, and I think that's kind of a big thing, is looking back on that game. This team is now 2-4. Had they held on to that lead, and I'm not woulda, coulda, shoulda guy, they would be 3-3 right now.
They would have been, and that's what I mean about that Montana State game. That they let get away. They let that one get away, and they are better. The offense is better. The defense is still a concern. And Coach Mendenhall said that. We were not concentrating, we're not finishing. We took a little bit of edge off that big lead. One thing, Ryan, remember, first play for Air Force in the third quarter, it's a touchdown, man. Call back as a holding. Remember that. That was a big factor, and it was a hold. There's no doubt it was a hold, but still, that took some points off the board for them, so they hurt themselves too. But another good thing for two things for New Mexico: Sol-Jay Mavia Peters, man, big impact. We hadn't seen him. He carried the ball, gained 63 yards, and that was something that we hadn't seen all year. And we'll ask Ned what kind of impact he'll have for the rest of the season. I think that's another thing that Coach Beck can use in his offensive arsenal. He's got some weapons there. So, the Air Force, remember, too, came in averaging 3.4 yards per rush. They found their groove against that defense quickly. Those drives, and, they ate up some yards, and, they do what they do. That triple option, misdirection. You had to play assignment football, and sometimes New Mexico didn't do a good job defensively. But they came away with the win, and they've got some momentum going. Coach Mendenhall has to feel pretty good about where they are now and who they play on Saturday. They've got a chance to win.
I think they've got a chance. I know UNLV is a juggernaut of an offense. They steamrolled Utah State. I think it was 38-7 at the end of the first half. Utah State rallied. The quarterback's name, transfer from Iowa, Petridis, or Petras. God, I'm thinking of Ritus Petridis from
Spencer.
Air Force. Spencer Petridis, I believe. Yeah, I think you're right there. Just to make sure, so I'm not crazy. I believe you. Spencer Petras. He had another big night. Jacob Neff was like, take his over. We're going to take a quick commercial break here before Ned James joins us. I want to throw this out to you guys. Question of the day, brought to you by Rick Thompson in the Bay Area. Question of the day, would you rather have Devin Dampier or Diego Pavia as your starting quarterback for the rest of the season? Ed will have you answer that later.
I'd love to.
And again, in the comments section, I'll read those answers later. Again, Ned James coming up, Shannon Kelly from Nevada Sportsnet at 5, Jason Turner from the Logan Herald, Utah Journal at 5:15 to talk about, I can't get anything right, to talk about the Utah State game coming up, recap their season. By the way, their schedule, Ed. Oh, where'd it go? There we go. Fantastic job hosting the show. Their schedule was Robert Morris at USC. They hosted Utah. They kind of gave Utah, they were in the game with Utah early. Temple, they lost to Temple, who's not a very good team. Boise State at Boise State, then they hosted UNLV. They gave up 62 to Boise State, 50 to UNLV, 48 to USC, 45 to Temple, 38 to Utah. Their defense isn't good. They did beat Robert Morris 36-14. All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we will be with former UNM quarterback and member of the Lobo Radio Network, Ned James. We'll be right back. This is the Pitt Press Live. welcome back to the Pit Press Live. Super excited to have this next guest on. And Ed, I know you're always happy to talk football with him. Mr. Ned James, former UNM quarterback, and he's with the Lobo Radio Network. He's a sideline reporter, and you can hear him pregame, halftime, postgame with our friend JJ Buck. Ned, how you doing?
Hey, doing great. Thanks for having me, guys.
I appreciate it. Well, we haven't had you on all year, and I'm glad I've got you promptly on time this time.
Mid-season.
Mid-season. I'm sorry. We're really happy to have you on. I think I'll start here, and then I'm going to throw it to Ed because I know he's got some specific questions for you. Realistically, they could have. I don't like being woulda, coulda, shoulda. The UNM football team could have been 3-3. They sit at 2-4. This offense has been electric. I want your thoughts on the offense, Devin Dampier, and this may be the best Lobo offense, no offense to you, you've ever seen.
No, they're pretty good. I mean, they've had some really good rushing teams with Bob Davie when Bob Davie was here. But yeah, as far as points and production that way, yeah, Devin Dampier has been electric. And I think Broncos mentioned it in his press conferences. Just, he was comparing him to Taysom Hill and Bryce Perkins and some of those guys that played for him. But he mentioned that Devin has done it earlier in his career. For being so young, he's really done a great job of managing that position and managing it to the tune of having 311.7 yards per game, which is number one in total offense in the conference. I mean, he's the most productive player, and you really don't have an answer for him. And that's what makes him so dynamic and so special. And this offense has just been, Jason Beck has really done a great job with this offense. And I think, Devin Dampier is the head of the snake.
I'm going to throw it to Ed after this question. This is why I love having you on, because I've got Ned and Ed, fantastic combination. Luke Wysong, he was injured last year. He's been incredible at wide receiver. He had a punt return. And I always think of you now, Ned, when you say offense puts butts in the seats, and I might be changing it, defense wins games and special teams wins championships. He had a punt return. Can you talk about how significant Luke Wysong at wide receiver and returner has been for this team?
Yeah, Luke is probably one of my favorite players on the team, and so much as I've communicated with him probably a little bit more and a little bit better than most of the guys on the team right now. I've always teased him because I said the number that he's wearing, number 15, I put that guy in the NFL. I said, that's Terrence Mathis. He's in the Ring of Honor. He's up on the side of the stadium. What the hell are you doing in that jersey? I mean, you shouldn't even be wearing that jersey. And I've always given him a hard time about it and told him, but tongue in cheek, I never really, criticized the young man because I always told him I thought he was going to be a great player because he had always had great speed. He was a sprinter coming out of high school. I would tease him about the kid, what's the kid's name? That boy that played at San Diego State that was a track guy as well that played at Manzano. But they were the top sprinters in the state. And I would always tease him because I would talk to Terrence and I'd say, because Terrence, it was a little bit offensive that, they put this guy at his number, those numbers are supposed to be retired on the side of the stadium. And but I said, and I was calling Terrence when he was a freshman to really kind of say, it's kind of disrespectful and that sort of thing. But every time I talk to Terrence, I'd say, well, he's not bad, Terrence. He's pretty good. And Terrence, I would tease Terrence. I said, Terrence, he's faster than you. Like, Terrence was quick and Terrence was athletic. But I thought Luke Wysong is just a special talent. And, I wish we could kick the ball better. I mean, when I say special teams, I'm talking about punt return, kick return, and kicking, the extra point and field goal guy. Drzwicki's got a little bit better, I think, in order for this team to be a little bit more successful. But Luke Wysong, they're not going to punt to him. I mean, the guy just out punted the coverage. You can't punt to a guy like Luke Wysong. They'll be punting the ball out of bounds from now on because he is that guy. He's a top sprinter. He's got close to world-class speed. And so you don't really think he does, but he's really kind of a big strider, really fast runner. And so he's really been just a joy to watch. I just really enjoy that young man as a person. So I'm happy for him. But like you said, yeah, I do believe, the special teams, he gives them, that growth. And I think, Bronco recognized that early. And it was just a matter of time before he broke one.
And I'm going to throw it over to you.
Ned, it's funny you mentioned that about Terrence. One of the things they said about him at the NFL Combine, not the stopwatch speed, but football speed, right? And so when you said that about Wysong, we know how quick T was on the football field, and especially playing basketball. The guy was phenomenal as far as quickness, but you're saying that Wysong has better speed, and that tells you a lot because Terrence was one heck of a football player here. There's no doubt about it. But, Ned, we caught each other in the parking lot on Saturday over there by the pit, and I'm glad we did. But, I always enjoy talking football with you, man, because, you coached at the highest level. One of the things you said to me about Coach Beck and the line. Now, you said the line was good, but, Dampier, being the elusive guy he is, that's why some of the reasons they don't have sacks. But you mentioned the way Coach Beck puts in another lineman, the way he coaches that offensive line and comes up with different ways. Can you explain that a little bit? What you said to me on Saturday, I thought that was some great stuff.
Yeah, and the guys were sitting at the table. I was talking to them at the press conference today about pass protection, and guys were they kind of listened to me. I said, you have 6-man protections, you have 5 offensive linemen, and you have a running back in the backfield, and you use that. You slide the line or you double read the line, and you have 6 guys to protect, maybe 4 to 5 guys that are rushing. Well, what they do, which is really clever, is they put an offensive lineman, a 6'4", 330-pound offensive lineman, in the number 38 jersey. His name is Isaiah Solomon. Silliman. He started last year at right guard. The guy played in every game last year at right guard. Well, now he's the extra fullback / H-back / tight end. And they look on the roster and they say, okay, why is number 38 in the game? Let's look up number 38. Wait a minute. His name is Isaiah. He was number 70 last year. He played offensive line. Why is he at tight end? Why is he at fullback? Why is he at H-back? And they do a really good job there. He doesn't necessarily give Devin Dampier a full read as far as him reading the total defense. He only gives him a side to read. And what he does, which is really good, is, because they check the protections all the time, they look to the sideline. When they have Isaiah Silliman in the game, he can play from the H-back spot, from the fullback spot, from the tailback spot, and all they do is slide the line and they fill him in to protect. It's really clever how they do it. They'll even motion him. Here's this big fat guy motioning across the line of scrimmage, and people will go, well, wait a minute. And you think that you can automatically defensive. You say, well, okay, we'll just cancel him out. He's an offensive lineman. Well, it's kind of difficult to teach young players. If you're in the NFL and you're defensive scheming, you have a little bit more time. But when you're trying to teach kids to go against their rules, because when there's a tight end in the game, there's certain rules you have as a defense. And now you have to change your rules because you don't have 5 linemen. You have 6 linemen in the game. And then they'll mix it in with Trace Buckler. They'll put them both in the game at the same time. So now is that double tight end or is that 6 linemen? And what? So it really confuses the defensive scheme. And Bronco spoke a little bit about it at the press conference today. You have to commit to something. Either you're going to commit and try to bring an extra linebacker, or you're going to bring an extra safety or somebody in the box, to stop the run. Well, then, they scheme it up to where they're going to throw passes against you when you do that. And so it's really, really good how Jason has used that extra lineman. And they've done some other things with those backs I know we're going to get into to also complement what they're doing with this extra offensive lineman in the game and putting him in formations. That's the key, is putting him in formations, and defenses not being able, you can scheme against it. You can just scheme it as a heavy or extra big guy in the game. But at the same time, that guy's not going out, and you can't really change schematically what you do because you have rules to what you do. And Isaiah Solomon, he causes some problems for people because he's blocking them. He's going up inside and blocking linebackers, and he's 330 pounds.
That's a heck of a way that Coach Beck is using him. And you mentioned the defense has rules, and you don't think you'll see Solomon go out for a pass or catch. Some coaches like to do that. You don't think we'll see that?
No, he's not that good. He can't do that. I don't believe he can do all that other stuff. He's a big fat. He's not like that offensive tackle that you see in the NFL every now and then go out for a pass. He's not that guy. He's a real fatty. He's a real guard, big guy that plays inside, that has no athletic ability. That's why they made him an offensive lineman. But he's not as good as the 5 that they're playing with. And so, they figured, hey, here's a guy, he's semi-athletic. He's not really athletic. If you watch him, he flops around like a beached whale sometimes when he hits the ground, when he's coming out of the backfield to block guys. But I don't believe that they're going to put him in any pass protection. But he's schemed it up enough to where there's enough plays to put him in the game where it benefits their offense, particularly in pass protection. And that's why you've seen, up till this game, I think they counted 1 sack this game. They had no sacks on the entire season. They were the least sacked team in all of Division I football last year. And it's not. And everybody's thinking, well, does that mean their offensive line's great? No, they're not that great. But it's the fact that the quarterback is super special on the scramble, and they have this really good scheme with this extra lineman that they put in the game. And nobody's really seen this scheme, so they couldn't really prepare for it in the offseason. A lot of times these colleges will prepare for guys in the offseason that they've seen them do stuff. And so people will be ready for it more next year than they are this year. They're getting a little bit better with it as we go on, but I think, Jason Beck has just done a really good job with how he's used Silliman this season.
I talked to you this morning, and you mentioned to me Devin Dampier, the MVP, clear cut and, clear and far away. He's passed for 7, ran for 7 touchdowns. Didn't have to turn the ball over the last 2 games. Still growing in that position. You played quarterback. You know a lot about past Lobo quarterbacks. He's certainly, there's Rocky Long. We mentioned Cole McCamey. We mentioned Stoney Case. Steve Meyer, before you even came here, was drafted by the Seattle Seahawks. There's been some good yourself. You played some really good quarterback for the Lobos when you were here. What's his ceiling, Ned?
Well, I call him, everybody's laughing at me because I walked into the meeting and said, baby Kyler Murray. And then everybody's, oh, no, he can't throw like, oh, no. I said, have you watched this kid scramble? He did a flag football play in the game. The best scramble in the game, he didn't even complete a pass or gain any yards. But he ran an RPO where he sent the back to the left, and he ran to the right to do an RPO. Well, when he was going up to throw the ball, both of the guys were covered. So the linebacker who's shadowing him as he's rolling to his right doesn't know what to do. So he's pumping the ball like he's going to throw it. So the guy, he can't see behind him, but he's been disciplined. He goes to the Air Force Academy, so he knows I'm not – and he's their best linebacker. His name was Ihe, number 8. He would not jump, but he had to stay and shadow Devin Dampier. So Devin Dampier is playing with him like he's playing with his son in the backyard. He's like, I'm going to throw the ball. No, I'm not. Hey, I'm going to run. No, I'm not. And it's like a flag football, like the guy was trying. And the guy wouldn't even come close to touching him because he was afraid. Then Dampier would act like he was going to run, and then he wouldn't run. He would stop, and the guy was just like paralyzed. He didn't know what to do because he didn't know if Devin was going to throw the ball, cut inside, cut outside. And Devin just did it for it seemed like a couple seconds. And the guy, it really was comical. Even when you see it on film, the guy just had no idea what to do. And he knew he couldn't jump or look back or try to, do any action to try to tackle the quarterback because he was afraid Devin would make him look bad. And it was just really a fun play to watch. But it's typical of Devin Dampier and his scrambling ability. And the one thing that Bronco mentioned in the press conference, which he's absolutely 100%, the decision making. I mean, he's really bright. I mean, he's a little immature at times, they say, around the building, but he's really good at making decisions. He doesn't throw the ball to the wrong defender on most occasions. He's not, taking risky chances with the ball. And Jason Beck has done a really good job of training him to not take hits. He's sliding. He's really not taking the big hits. And because that's what I was worried about, being a little bitty guy, and the fact that he's leading the conference in total offense, he's got the ball in his hands so much. You don't want a guy to get hit that's that little because they won't last. They won't make it through the season. And I think they've done a really good job of protecting him in pass protection. And when he runs, you'll see him slide, or you see him just, kind of move his body so he doesn't take the big hit. And I just really think the kid has just done a phenomenal job from that standpoint. And by far the MVP. I know he hasn't been able to break the rock, as they call it, where they the player of the game. You know, in this game it was Luke Weissong, and in the last game it was Rodgers, the running back. But you know, they don't win any games without this quarterback.
No, he's very special. You know, I got to ask you about this. They brought another wrinkle out. Coach Beck did the impact of Sol-Jay Mavia-Peters on Saturday. Rushed for 63 yards. The former BYU quarterback. They used him a lot in Wildcat. What's your opinion of him? How much do you think of an impact he'll have throughout the rest of the season?
Well, they've got a pretty good running back stable. I mean, you know, he's that guy that they bring in. But one thing that he can do, and what people don't realize, is that he was the MVP of the New Mexico Bowl just a couple of years ago at quarterback. And so he can throw the ball as well. So they're just, you know, giving him a little bit of flavor with him at the running back because he's a tremendous athlete. And Bronco mentioned Taysom Hill. And, you know, they love these athletic guys that can do a lot of different things. And so he's one of those guys that they've plugged in the last couple of weeks at that position. I mean, he just had a really good game. But, you know, they've got Eli Sanders in the backfield. They got Nakari Rodgers. They've got Javin Jacobs. They've got you know, three other guys at running back, which I like. And JJ and I talked about it in the pregame show a couple of weeks ago. I said, you know, you want these yards gobbled up by these backs. You don't want the quarterback to necessarily be the runner in your offense to get your run game going. You want these backs, you know, and there's only one football. So, you know, running backs, people think receivers are divas. These running backs, I'm looking at body language of some of these guys. I was talking to the running backs coach, you know, before the game, and he's like, yeah, you know, I've got some pouting over there. I said, well, you know, the kids, you know, they're going to pout, but, you know, you guys have done a good job of the discipline part. So they're not, you know, going out, you know, doing crazy stuff because they're not playing. Because, you know, Eli Sanders was the bell cow the first 3 games. Well, he's the fourth guy now. You know, Nakari Rodgers and Javin Jacobs are getting more run than Eli Sanders. But then Eli Sanders comes in late in the game, scores 2 touchdowns. So it's a mix of a lot of different things. I'm glad that they're doing that because it takes the pressure off the quarterback to have a run for them to win games offensively. And we'll get into defense in a little while here. But offensively, you know, Jason Beck has just really done a good job. And the receiver core, I think, is decent. I'm still kind of confused about the Medford Trujillo thing. We talked about that a little bit. But, you know, as far as Ryan Davis and Luke Weissong, I mean, they've done a really good job, you know, after that first game, you know, I thought Trujillo and Luke, you know, had a little jitters the first game, but now I think they've come into their own, and I think they've been productive.
Trujillo had a heck of a catch on Saturday on that one pass from Dampier, I think, in the first quarter. But, you know, we asked about the defense. Now, the defense in the last couple, you know, against New Mexico State in the fourth quarter and then against Air Force on Saturday seemed to fall apart, give up, you know, big scores. And Coach Mendenhall says it's an assignment here, loss of concentration there. You know, you've been around the game a long time, and that's just something that still is plaguing New Mexico is the defense. The offense seems to be working well. They've scored, they put up the points. What do you think about the defense, and what do they need to do to get, you know, they did get to their credit, Ned? They got 2 4th-and-1 stops and forced a fumble. Give them credit there. But the fourth quarter, they seem to kind of spiral and give up late scores. And if Air Force had gotten that onside kick, you could have said, hey, they might have a chance here. So what's your opinion what do they need to do to get better defensively?
Well, you know, it all works together. Offense and defense kind of works together. You know, they've got to learn to finish people off in the fourth quarter. I mean, you've got to be, you know, you got to make stops. You got to force them into, you know, not having really good plays in the last couple series that you have of the game. But with that, you know, yet and still, I mean, everybody's banged up, but we're really banged up on defense. I mean, they've got a ton of injuries over there. You know, Randolph Kapai, you know, the brother from South Dakota. I remember teasing him in the training room one day. I said, man, how many brothers are in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, man? Because he like grew up in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And so, but he's a good kid, really a good kid. And he came on strong. I mean, he wasn't even really one of the initial starters. It was Demetri Johnson and Jaden Wilson. And, you know, he came on, you know, after, you know, I think there were some injuries and so forth going on there and linebacker core. And he really had a really productive game, but they're missing some of their starters. You know, Gabe Lopez and some of those guys have played in a couple games, and they're really struggling with injuries on defense. And And so we're going to see, this weekend, with the injuries, how they hold up, because this team right now, they're in a good position in the way the schedule sets up to win a lot of games. But, they got to get some players back on defense, and they've got to get some stops, because from here on out, they're not going to have the Air Forces who primarily run the ball. They're going to have some really productive offenses that they're going to face, and some really good players. And, they're going to have to stop some people if they're going to be able to win some games. And you're not going to score 50 every week. And so, with these conference games coming up, but conference games they can win.
Right on. Well, I'll turn it back to you. I think I got what I wanted out of Mr. James.
Again, we're joined by Ned James. You can catch him on Lobo Radio Network, 96.3. Pre-game, halftime, post-game with our friend JJ Buck, who I need to bug JJ for women. He's the voice of the women's basketball team. But I think my question to you is, Ned, I'm not writing the ship on 6 games, but have you kind of, with 6 to go, have you kind of seen maybe a little bit of changing in the program? Is it, I know you've talked about the defense and how, it's a Simon here, lack of concentration here. That's also coming from Bronco. Do you feel like you're getting a sense that there is a little bit of the programs starting to change, where it's like, hey, we can win some football games, especially with the fact that they put up points on Arizona? I don't think Arizona was expected to be what they were. They had a big win at Utah. They played Montana State really well. Montana State is, I don't care if they're an FCS. They've been beating the doors off people. They're undefeated and 3rd in the nation in FCS. But do you feel like there's a little bit of the changing, I don't want to say of the guard, but do you see a little bit of progress already with what Bronco Mendenhall has done?
Yeah. Now, Bronco's a little guarded, so it's a little tough to get into the details of the program. But what he's done, they've kind of kept, everything pretty close. And I'm observing from afar, what the program is looking like. And what I'm seeing from afar, I like. It's little things. It's the things like getting off the bus. So I watched them get off the bus today, and I was talking to JJ about this last year when I watched UNLV get off the bus, and when I watched them come out for practice. It was interesting. Not for practice, when they were coming out for the game, UNLV for the pregame. And you just see the discipline with the kids. You don't see any goofing around. You don't see any guys not being serious about what's about to happen, which is, a college football game. I really liked what I saw watching the UNM guys get prepared to come out for the game. There's a routine to it. There's a discipline to it. There's guys who are really serious about what their tasks are for that day, and that's encouraging, and that's something you can really build on. And I think that's Bronco's process, as he calls it, for winning. And I think there's something to build there. The defense, they're struggling, and Bronco's struggling with it. I could tell. I kind of cornered him before the game just to shake his hand and say, "Hey, coach, you're doing a great job." And he's like, "Oh, it's about." I could just see the stress on his face, because when your side of the ball and you're the head coach is not performing well, it's really, really hard, because most people are saying, well, wait a minute now. The offense is playing well, but isn't the head coach a defensive guy? Why is the defense struggling? So it's always that, pressure, for your side of the ball that you've been, that's how you earned your bones in the business, was as a defensive coordinator. And that side of the ball is not doing well. And the answer to it is you had some unfortunate incidences, but nobody's listening to that. Nobody cares about that. And, I think they really believed going into the summer that they had enough to get to 6 wins. They're at 2, and, they've got 6 left, and 4 of them are games they can win. They really are games that set up nicely, but for the defense, we talked, like you mentioned, Luke Weissong and special teams. Now you got a weapon there. I think, the punter is great. I think our punter is really good. The kicker leaves a little bit to desire, but I think, there's something that, you really are hoping that you can kind of get over the hump with the kicker. But, you've got to play better defense. You've got to play defense. And to me, that's where you win the games, is on defense. And I think they're struggling because of injuries. I think they're, trying to get guys back as soon as they can, but you can't rush these injuries. A lot of the injuries that these guys have are pretty serious injuries. And so, and it's a tough, when you get to that mid part of the season with these young guys and now you're in school and you got, all kinds of other issues going on, it's a little easier to not, to tag out unless it really means something to you, and so I think he's just trying to push them and get them to that level to where they can push through some of this injury stuff and, get back out there because the way the schedule is setting up now with Utah State, then they go to Colorado State. Both teams are down this year. Utah State and Colorado State are both down. And then they come home to Wyoming, who's 1-5. Then they have San Diego State, who's struggling a little bit, but not bad. But that's a game they can win. And then, of course, Washington State's playing well. And then, Hawaii in the season, they're not fantastic this year. So it sets up for them, to get themselves in a position to win a few more games before the season ends. But they've got to get some guys back on defense, and they've got to play a lot better on defense if they're going to be successful this last half of the season.
Lastly, I mean, just not with UNM, but maybe college football and NFL in general. I was going to ask you, hey, what do you like? But I don't want that. What have you seen from the NFL or college football this year that you don't like?
That I don't like
yes.
in college football? Well, I don't like the fact that Buffalo Bills and the Minnesota Vikings have already won the Super Bowl, and Josh Allen has a gold jacket. He's in the Hall of Fame, and so is Sam Darnold. People are overreacting, and we're still in October. We're just a quarter through the season. We still got 3/4 of the NFL season left, and people are, jumping ship on most of their teams. Relax, people. Relax. I mean, it's just the beginning of the season. I think people kind of overreact with teams who win games and lose games, and especially these Dallas Cowboy fans. Boy, you thought they were going to, all of them were going to jump off a bridge because the Detroit Lions, coming off a dang bye week, go in there and boat race them. But, that happens sometimes in the NFL. You get beat sometimes, you get beat bad. I mean, I've been on teams we went to the AFC Championship game. We started off 1-4. So, it's just one of those things that, in the NFL, any given Sunday, that could happen. But also I wanted to give a shout out. I know, Ed was going to talk about Michael Cooper, and I have to talk about Michael Cooper.
Go right ahead.
Because he went to Pasadena City College, where I went to school. Then he came to the University of New Mexico, where I went to school. So he's a proud alumnus of 2 colleges that I went to. He's going into the Hall of Fame. Much deserved, And he's from Pasadena, the home of Jackie Robinson. They're all from that area. James Sanford, the Olympic sprinter, all those guys. Jock Vaughn. It's really a good tradition of football. My good friend Vaughn Simmons, rest in peace. He was a USC running back and transferred here to New Mexico because of some circumstances that happened to him. But just a rich tradition in Pasadena, and then with the Lobos, and then of course 5-time champion with the Lakers, and the defensive stopper who Larry Bird called the greatest perimeter defender he'd ever gone up against. And so just proud of the fact that he's made it to the Basketball Hall of Fame, and being that 1997 Defensive Player of the Year in the NBA, and playing with Showtime Lakers and Magic and all those guys. A lot of people are really proud of him in this state. He's come back here and he's done some coaching here. He's been a champion as a women's basketball coach, and just an all-around good guy. Does a lot for the Cultural Center. He's good friends with the former director at the University of New Mexico, and so he's done a lot to try to come back and help in the community. And everybody's just proud of him. The fact that he's going to make the Hall of Fame finally. So a lot of people are saying finally because he's been on that list for a long time, and he's finally getting his due as a defensive player, and a UNM great, which a lot of people are really proud of him for what he did as a Lobo as well.
Ed, I don't know if you have anything to piggyback off that.
Ned, I got to see him play when he played here. The Lobos are ranked 4th in the nation, and they lost to Cal State Fullerton in Tucson, and the regionals would have been here. I had tickets. All my friends had tickets. Heartbreaking loss, but he was amazing to watch here. And I've been a Laker fan since '72, and the perfect swing man for the Lakers. He spent his rookie season on injured reserve, then came and played 79, 80. And that's when the Lakers won their first championship. And like Ben Wallace and Dennis Rodman, he never had great offensive numbers, but his defensive presence was really felt. And then he's a set shooter, right? A set shooter, not a jump shooter. But I think in one finals against Boston, he destroyed them. And Bird kept saying, talking mess to him, Brick, and he buried him, man, And so it was, he's such a great player here. I got to tell you a real quick story. You know Petey Gibson, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Played for the Lobos years ago. They were playing at West Mesa years ago in the early 80s. And this is when Petey was still yoked, man, still working out at Gold's Gym. Yeah. And he tells Chester Fuller, bring him over. I want to set a pick on Coop. He said Coop went right through him, man, knocked his wind out of him. And Petey was strong. That tells you how strong that Michael Cooper was. Wiry, strong, guarded George Gervin, Andrew Toney, Dr. J, Larry Bird. He's the stopper. Backup point guard to Magic Johnson. Not a great ball handler, but did his job and was just tough, man. So it's great to see him get in the Hall of Fame.
Cool.
Yeah.
Those guys from Pasadena, all those guys are tough, physical, strong. It's because those projects are on a hill. Those kids have to run up and down those hills when they're little. That's why they're all so dang fast and strong. Anthony Miller, who was my receiver at Pasadena City College, was a 5-time All-Pro with Denver and the San Diego Chargers and the Dallas Cowboys. Those guys, those sprinters were all great sprinters were coming out of John Muir and Pasadena High School up there because the hood up there is on a hill. So those kids have to run up and down the hill all the time. That's why those kids are all fast and strong from that area. But, yeah, I always used to tease, my friends that were from that area. And I played at Pasadena City College, the same place that moved. It's just ironic that, Coop and I did the same, Pasadena and the University of New Mexico always recruited Pasadena City College. And it was great. And I enjoyed my time here at the University of New Mexico. And Michael Cooper has as well. And so it's funny because Vaughn Simmons, who played running back here, his Cooper's cousin and him were really good friends. And so, it's just a small world that we live in. It's a couple of degrees of separation from all of us. So it's just wonderful to see that he's finally getting his due and getting inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, no doubt.
Ned James. Ned, appreciate you joining us. I know it's been a while. I might bug you next week. Thanks for joining us. I enjoy the Monday night game and enjoy college football the rest of the week and the NFL the rest of the week. That was Ned James, Lobo Radio Network and former UNM quarterback. Ned, thanks a lot.
All right.
Thanks, Ned.
Thank you, guys. Goodbye.
All right. That was Ned James. And I'm not going to take a quick commercial break. We're going to go to our next guest because I know she is probably on a timetable. She works in TV. I like talking to her because she's got New Jersey roots. Her name is Shannon Kelly from Nevada Sportsnet, here to talk about a little bit of Nevada Wolfpack football because I've been incredibly impressed with them. So, again, we're doing this show impromptu, and I appreciate her candidness in joining us last minute. Shannon, how are you doing today?
Hey, guys, I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having me on. I appreciate it. Much
appreciated. Jeff Coates done a pretty good job thus far. We cover a team that was finish. I can't talk today. That was picked to finish second to last. Nevada was picked to finish last. They find themselves at 3-4 and 2-2. I'll start with the latest game. I didn't see them putting up a great game against against Oregon State, yet they pulled out the win, and it was a 42-37 win. Savion Red ran for 4 touchdowns. What do you make of that?
Was a pretty crazy game. I mean, when you look at this one, it felt like at times Oregon State had the momentum, then Nevada gained some momentum back. To think Nevada was trailing 24-14 in the third quarter before, going on that late stretch there, a huge pick 6 by Keaton Crawford, the Texas transfer who's joined the Wolfpack this season. And then Savion Red, as you mentioned, 4 rushing touchdowns. He also transferred in from Texas. And then just the play of Brendan Lewis and, his ability to use his legs and be a dual threat quarterback. I think last year, he wasn't able to showcase his talents. And this year he's been able to do so. And while Nevada's played a lot of close games this year, 3-4 overall and 2-3 in these one possession games. They're certainly headed in the right direction under Coach Choate, and it's been great to see for this Wolfpack community who really loves football and is, hoping this program gets back on the right track. Saturday's game and this whole season has certainly been a step in that direction.
I'll ask about Coach Jeff Choate in a minute, which I can never pronounce his name. I always butcher it, and I feel bad. And right before we got on, I was trying to figure out how to pronounce it. So I still butchered it. I don't even know how to pronounce my last name. Savion Red has 86 carries, 593 yards, 7 touchdowns. He's averaging 6.9 yards a carry. We have a special quarterback here. in New Mexico, and I think the more and more we talk about him. However, there's a running back in Boise that's getting a lot of national attention, and rightfully so. And he's won me some money gambling, so I like him a lot. But these are very good numbers for a kid that's transferred in. I know you kind of touched on that, but how important has he been to this offense?
I think he's been really important. I think, even when he's not out there, just the personality that he's brought to this offense this year. I mean, when we spoke with a handful of guys before the season even started, they mentioned just how his electricity and his fire has helped light up the offense. So I think that's been a big spark that Nevada's offense was lacking last year. And, it was funny today during the press conference, Coach Choate just had mentioned how, hey, he's a character, and they're like, get him out there. And when he is out there, he is, as we saw on Saturday, what he can do and what he's capable of doing when the moment presents itself. So it's been good to see how, Nevada's running back room, it's not just him too. You have Patrick Garwo, Sean Dollars, who's a returner, Kai Woods, who's been getting some touches. So there's, a handful of guys who have certainly stepped in this year into that room, and that room is pretty deep.
Outside of a shutout to Minnesota, Nevada's played some very close games, even only losing to SMU by 3, was it? What do you attribute that? And you mentioned Savion Red. When you have players, that definitely helps. But what do you attribute there's most of our games have been very close, exciting, down to the wire. What do you attribute that to?
Yeah, I think a lot of it's just the culture change and what Coach Choate has, done to revitalize this program this season. And you could just tell in that SMU game in the first half, there was just a different demeanor to this Wolfpack team that I hadn't seen the past 2 years, with a lot of guys that are returners and obviously new ones as well. But there's just a different edge. And, he wants his guys to play with an edge and, not cross that line and not be too physical or get those penalties, but find that balance of where that edge is at. And I think that's where it all starts, really, is at the top with their head coach, because he has done a great job so far in turning this program around. There's still a lot of work to be done as Mountain West play is really just getting started. They had that close loss to San Jose State, but certainly while they are losses in the win column, feels like different losses given the way things were the past 2 seasons.
I think we feel somewhat like that here at New Mexico with Coach Mendenhall. He's starting to see some progress finally. Go starting out 0-4. It's a tough schedule though. They play a tough schedule. And I think, no disrespect to Danny Gonzalez. We loved him. He's one of ours. But when you have a guy like Coach Mendenhall step in, he's wanted Virginia, he's wanted BYU, he's been a winner wherever he's been. So I think it sounds like you've got the same thing going down there. And Nevada coaches can make a tremendous difference as far as culture and the things you talked about, and feeling like even if you're in every game, you have a chance. And I think that's all any fan or anybody can ask for. Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's a good point, and that's a good comparison, because these were, 2 programs the last couple of years that have struggled. And, Coach Wilson had a lot of ties to this area. He had been an assistant here at Nevada for many years. Things just unfortunately did not work out the way that, fans and administration would have hoped. And that's why they went into a different direction last offseason.
I wanted to ask you about one of the guys that were turning against quarterback Brendan Lewis. His passing yards aren't flashy. I don't know if he's necessarily flashy. They beat UNM last year, which, could have, he came in. I think he was one. I don't know if he started all the games last year, but he came in against UNM. That's not here nor the point. I'm rambling on, but he was 5 of 12 for 51 yards. However, he ran for 151 yards and he had a 67-yard touchdown run. I cannot talk today. How has he kind of taken over that leadership role this year? And it seems like he's kind of embracing it. Does he not care about his numbers? Does he just want to win?
Well, I think the biggest thing is just his competitiveness and just how much he's grown as a football player. I think that's something that the guys have said, just how much he's grown and how much his teammates have rallied around and supported him. And Coach Choate said how much his leadership and how much he's grown in that aspect as well. And, he felt like during the bye week, because I asked him, I said, what was it out there? Because at San Jose State, this kid had played such a great game. And unfortunately, Nevada fell on the wrong side of things. But, felt like, hey, he said, it's Mountain West time. It's Mountain West play. It's league play. Like there's no turning back essentially. But, that he's really turned it up a notch this year. And it's been interesting, as you said, maybe in the box score, when you look, he only had however many passing yards, but he ran for a career high 151 yards and he had that touchdown. And afterwards he was so emotional about that touchdown that he scored. And, we asked him after the game, hey, why were you so emotional? And he said, because I play myself in video games. I do that in video games. So to see that in real life, have these students and these fans at Mackey Stadium, that's awesome. I mean, I've never seen him smile so big like that after a touchdown. And I thought that was pretty cool because this is a kid who's been working pretty hard and, he's starting to see the benefits of that.
I just have to make one real quick comment, but I think that's so funny that, that they're able to do that, Shannon, play, and we asked a lot of the guys at Mountain West Media Day, are you, did you buy in or, and that's, imagine that as a kid, you and my son used to play those games all the time and he's older now, but getting to play yourself and he played as himself. And that's so funny that they get mad about that, right? It's a game and a video game at that, but still, you want the video guy to do great too, right? That's funny.
No, I thought it was great. I mean, just such a wholehearted answer, I think, because he's like, hey, I make those plays in the game, and I just made that in real life. That's after funny. That game against Oregon State.
I'm starting to show my age because I asked Jackson Woodard, the linebacker at UNLV at Mountain West Conference Football Media Days. I was like, hey, did you opt to be in the game? And he was like, I don't know if Ed knows this. Shannon, you might know this, but EA Sports slogan used to be, if it's in the game, it's in the game, EA Sports. So when he said it's in the game, I was like, man, I have that quoted. I need to use that a lot more. I didn't mean to get off on a tangent about reliving my childhood, and I play college football 25, like it's never coming back again, is like for a second time. What is the mood around Reno towards Nevada, this Wolfpack team right now, being that they were picked last? They're 3-4, as I've mentioned, and 2-2 in conference. There has to be, I don't know if heads turning. I'm sure yours and what I saw when they played SMU, and SMU has played very well in the ACC. And they beat Troy team that plays pretty good defense. But I mean, what is the mood around Reno towards this team right now?
People are excited. People, I think obviously coming into the season, nobody knew what to expect. And I think, fans have been upset that a lot of the losses have been so close. And it's like, hey, this Nevada team could have been, 6-1 or whatever the case is as each week has gone on. Hey, some of these losses could have been wins, but people are very excited, I think, right now, especially after this Oregon State win, about what this Nevada team has shown that they can do. They, had a season high in attendance at the Oregon State game on Saturday. It was a really good crowd. So I think fans are excited, and they're, people are happy, I think, with how things have gone. And obviously, some of those losses fans aren't going to be happy with, but people are just excited about, where the program is headed, I would say.
They get Fresno State at home on Saturday. They're at Hawaii CSU. I already asked you about Colorado State. I'm sure that the program is doing a little bit better. They've still got that circled on their game. I mean, do you expect them to, last question, these last 6 games for them, Fresno, Hawaii, Colorado State, they do get Boise. They're at Boise Air Force, then at UNLV. UNLV is a big rivalry game for them. They have to go down there. I mean, UNLV has looked good. I know you get, I'll change the question there. I know you cover a little bit of UNLV because I know you're in Vegas a lot. What is your perception about UNLV and how this season has gone for them?
I mean, I think it's great. When you look at UNLV football, they haven't had a lot of success in recent years until Barry Odom stepped over and turned around that program and brought the Rebels to a Mountain West title game last year. I think, they were ranked in the AP top 25. I mean, they had been playing really, really good football. So I think that game is going to be a lot of fun. I mean, when you look at rivalry games, I think you can throw the records out the window because we've seen, Nevada teams that have finished under 500 go out and beat UNLV in this game. So I think that should be a fun one in several weeks to come. But yeah, it's interesting now is really we're, halfway through, but Nevada's only played one Mountain West game against San Jose State, but it should be an interesting few weeks ahead, no doubt, to see how things will shake out for the rest of the season.
I don't know where I got that they were 2-2 in conference. They're 0-1. Wow. But anyway, they're 3-4 on the season. Her name's Shannon Kelly from Nevada Sportsnet. Shannon, on Last Minute, I appreciate you so much. Thank you for joining us. I will see you in Las Vegas on Wednesday.
Hey, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. See you in Vegas this week.
Thank you.
Thank you. Safe travels. Much appreciated to Shannon Kelly from Nevada Sportsnet.
Ryan, I'm going to have to step off, but I do want to ask that question about.
Sure, go ahead.
Diego and Devin Dampier. Now, you know what? I'm going to say Devin Dampier because we know what he's done in a Lobo uniform. We've seen what he's done. So I'll take Devin Dampier, but that's not a knock against Diego Pavia, not at all. Diego Pavia, look what he did. They beat Vanderbilt, 2 wins in a row for Vanderbilt. They beat Kentucky on Saturday. And as I said before, not the best arm, not the fastest guy. All he does is win football games, move the chains, move the sticks. But I would take Devin Dampier. Yeah, I'm a Lobo homer. Call whatever you want, but that's not a knock on Diego Pavia. And there were some comments from my good friend Miguel Sanchez. He's not wrong. He said that that Danny
Miguel Sanchez.
Danny Gonzalez made a mistake there, and I think Danny, Coach Gonzalez would be the first to say that he made a mistake, man. He did. He didn't see and again, Pavia did what he did to the field. That's over with. He made a mistake. As a Lobo fan, I wasn't happy about it. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you that kid can't play football. He's a darn good football player. He played good for New Mexico State, and he's doing great for Vanderbilt. And he's from your alma mater. He went to St. Pius a couple years, then finished at Volcano Vista. He's an Albuquerquean. I'm always going to cheer for people from Albuquerque, man. But I'll still take Devin Dampier right now. Yeah.
I'll answer those questions. Appreciate that answer, Ed. I appreciate you joining me. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we'll be joined by Jason Turner, writes for the Logan Herald Journal there in Logan, Utah. Talk a little Utah State football. And again, UNM is there on Saturday. Ed, thanks for joining me. I'll be talking to you in a bit. This is the Pit Press Live. My name is Ryan Tamori. We'll be right back.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
Welcome back to the Pit Press Live. My name is Ryan Tamori. Starling Marte just hit a single at Ronnie Chavez. Mets are up 7-3. I did not expect 1-1 as I drop my cell phone there. At least I didn't do the Mike Francesca and spill my Diet Coke. After last night, I thought it was going to be a sweep. This is my opinion. I think the Padres pissed off the Dodgers. Anyway, that's enough baseball talk for now. Appreciate Shannon Kelly, Ed Nunez, and then, of course, Mr. Ned James. And now I cut to, hopefully we can see him, Mr. J. Well, I don't know if he's with us yet. Might take another commercial break here. Trying to add him. Let me see if he's reached out to me. Will be by Jason Turner of the Logan Herald Journal in Utah. I'm going to take another quick commercial break.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
All right, I'm going to try this again. Let's see if we can add Jason. Perfect. All right, from the Logan, Utah Herald Journal, his name is Mr. Jason Turner. Jason, can you hear me?
This way instead.
Hey, Jason, can you hear me? Looks like we're still having some technical difficulties. Rick's going to join the show. Rick, how you doing? I'm just going to remove Jason real quick. Rick Thompson, everybody, a two-time offensive state lineman for San Juan Mendoza, coming all the way to the Bay Area. How you doing, Rick?
Richard.
Doing well. Hope you guys can hear me. Happy to join the show early here and learn some about Utah State. So let's keep it going.
All right. Looks like Jason Turner. I'm trying to get him back on. Little technical difficulties. I love him. He's got a great sense of humor. I meant to queue up some dodgeball for him. Rick, very quickly, your thoughts on UNM and Air Force on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, first time they've won back-to-back games since 2021, so I got to feel good about that. Overall, the team doesn't really look too much different to me than they have the whole season. Giving up that type of yardage and point total to Air Force is still not the right direction for the defense that we're hoping for. I understand that Gabe Lopez, one of their leaders, still is not back playing, and they did have bright spots. But let's not forget in the second half when Air Force got that touchdown called back on the penalty, it would have been 28-24 UNM at that point, and it would have been a much different game in my eyes, along with the fumble that Air Force had. So those turnovers really changed the game. I think it would have been much closer if those don't occur. But, you know, the UNM offense is just rolling right now. Dynamic set of receivers and, you know, 3 or 4 guys that can run the ball out of the backfield. So offense still looks great. Defense still scratching our head. And, of course, special teams looks good when you return a punt. So overall, you know, happy with the win, but still doesn't look much different to me than it has all season.
Well, you love Ned James. I burp into the mic. You love Ned James. You had finally, I think, listened to him on the radio, and I had mentioned how much I loved him. He used to join us weekly last year. I hadn't been able to get him on, and he kind of yelled at me on the show today. He's like, "Yeah, it only took you till mid-season." he had a bright spot. Efforting Jason Turner right now.
So I guess, and Ned was kind of hitting on this, and you're right. I love whenever Ned goes on the radio or when he comes on, we need to have him on more often because the knowledge that he carries with him is second to none. But when you look at the Lobo running backs, it's been a different guy the past few weeks, kind of leading the way with Nikari Rogers last week. I think had close to 20 carries and 3 touchdowns, and Eli Sanders really hasn't got many touches, but in this game he made the most of it. I believe 80 yards with 2 scores on only 5 carries. And then, you guys were talking about Sol-Jay Maivia-Peters, and I love what he's doing. 9 carries, 63 yards, and a touchdown. But I think the other defense knows what's going to happen now when he's in the game, right? Like the second or third time you do the direct snap to him, that they know he's just going to run. So I think they need to run some different variations out of it when he's in the game. He doesn't necessarily need to pass the ball, but I think maybe having him run the play action or handing it off to someone else would allow him to keep being effective. But I love that. And of course, Javen Jacobs got 6 carries and Rogers got 6 carries as well. So spreading it around, keeping them all fed, and, keeping Devin Dampierre around 10 carries a game has really been what they've been looking for so far. And you guys were really hitting on his decision-making, and we really can't complain about it. I know he has had some interceptions, but a few of those were drop balls or just balls where he's trying to make too big of a play. So overall, I think the offense is really humming, man. And Nick Trujillo as a freshman has really, I think, done things that I haven't expected and become, I think, maybe the second top receiver on this team.
I've said it, and I was telling our friend Stephen Pena yesterday. He's a close friend of mine. He doesn't watch college football, and I don't know how he brought it up. And I was like, man, the Mountain West does have a lot of talented receivers. I think you can throw Luke Weiss on the mix. Obviously, Ricky White. UNLV has like 3. Give me a second. They have 3. I gotta reach out to Jason Turner, but they've got Jacob DeJesus, the Kane kid, he transferred in. Torrey Horton at Colorado State. Nick Nash at San Jose State. I mean, it doesn't. It really doesn't matter. I mean, I don't know. Rick, I wanted your thoughts. I mean, you've played offensive line. You know what it's like to have an offense rolling. The defense, I know you've mentioned it's the same thing. I think it's the same thing as last year. I don't know. I think, and you and I have kind of talked about it maybe off the record, at least earlier in the year, where maybe they're not such a good team, but they have some talented players. But how do you approach this defense, or what do you think of the defense?
I think we know statistically this year Air Force ranked 131st out of 133 teams on offense, and UNM occupied that same spot on defense heading in. So in other games, Air Force proved they're really bad on offense, and in this game they looked better on offense. So that must tell us that the Lobos defense made them look pretty good, as Rick Wright said in his article in the Albuquerque Journal. So I know we're talking about they're thin at linebacker. They're missing, obviously, Gabe Lopez, who will be coming back. But when you look at the game, to me, the big problem is defending the run. The D-line is getting blown off the ball time and time again, even though when they know the run is coming. So there's no penetration early, and the linebackers a lot of times aren't getting a lot of help up front. So I don't put it all on the linebackers. I think the secondary has a lot of talented players, and they've been making big plays all year. So I don't think it's a problem so much in the secondary, but it is a problem bringing consistent pressure on the quarterback. So moving forward, I don't know what they can do schematically. I wanted to ask Ned, with what they have, and we keep complaining about the roster's thin, and there's nothing we can change about that, right? What can they actually do? Like you're asking, what I don't know what they can do, to to change what they have. What I would try, I think at this point, is what they did early in the season against Montana is bring in more pressure from the secondary. They really hit Tommy Mollett against Montana State early and often, and was the most effective defense I've seen them have all season, is when they were pressuring the quarterback. Against the run, though, it's just going to come down to someone on the D-line stepping up and consistently being able to make a stop up front, which hasn't happened, as they're still one of the worst rush defenses, I think, giving up around 250 yards a game. The only good news really looking forward is Utah State's defense is equally as bad. And in every category, they're right next to the Lobos in terms of yards given up. So it'll be two similar type schools, I'm thinking, going into this next week.
Utah State played Utah pretty well. Utah's not what they should be. Cam Rising is Robo QB. They beat Robert Morris 36-14, lost to USC 48-0. Utah 38-21. Temple, who's not very good, 45-29. Boise hung 62 on them, but they did score 38-30. And then UNLV beat them 50-34. That game was 38-7 at the half. We watched it. UNLV at will.
But I mean, if you put their schedule up against UNM, they arguably have had just as hard a schedule as New Mexico in my eyes. All the teams that they've lost to were ranked at one point during the year. So, they've really had a tough schedule. Utah State's been missing a lot of bodies, I believe, on defense. And they've just been gashed, much like the Lobos all year. And you really got to give them credit, I think, just for even hanging around in the second half. And I think their coach, Nate Drilling, the New Mexico State former coordinator that came over as the interim coach, I think he just hammered to them at halftime, it is what it is. You guys better just get to your assignments. And at least I think they can kind of say they changed that in the second half and have something to look forward to going forward versus New Mexico.
We're going to take a quick commercial break. I'm going to call Jason Turner. We'll get him on the show. Rick, thanks for joining. We'll be right back again. For the listeners, viewers, appreciate it. Sorry about that. We'll be right back.
I dropped the top on the Essex Street. Fly in my ops, see the envy me. Passing it off like CP3. Shawty, she calling me MVP. I be on time, it's something you ain't never seen before. They call me the Dama. Really want my whole team to score. Damn, yeah, too icy. Yeah, too clean. Yeah, my zone. Yeah, 2-3. Yeah, got shooters that hit from deep. Bust like Giannis. Yeah, too mean. Bright lights like we at the garden. On P, don't get me started. Whole team walk, give me the party. If I can't make the play, I'ma lob it. If you jump, that's right on your head. Had to put him to sleep, go to bed. I'm a star, drop 50 and left. From the logo, like I'm Steph. Put it up, knock him down every time. Going hard like my life on the line. Catch me on the course, I would've down. Never losing, I put it on mine. Had to get on my shell, I've been laying low. They get real when it comes to the playoffs. You fight with me, no one's a KO.
All right, we had to go to the phones, and I'm very happy to have this gentleman on. I didn't have any dodgeball or Disney jokes queued up. Jason Turner from
Disney jokes.
No Disney jokes. No Pirates of the Caribbean jokes. His name is
that's fine.
His name is Mr. Jason Turner from the Logan Herald Journal in Logan, Utah. Senor, how you doing?
I'm doing not too shabby.
How's covering this 1-5 Utah State team? Is this team, I know Blake Anderson got fired, Nate Drilling takes over. They've had a very rough schedule. What have you taken away from this 1-5 start?
I mean, I don't think it's terribly surprising. I think most people thought they would beat Temple, but they really just they could have been winning that game really big at halftime. Didn't play well in the second half. Temple completely outplayed them. Can't say I'm terribly surprised. I honestly thought they would be better on defense this year. They were really bad on defense last year, and Nate Dreiling did a good job as the defensive coordinator in New Mexico State. Now he's wearing two hats, so I don't know if they would be doing better if he had fewer responsibilities. But I think that's maybe that's the thing that shocked me the most, is I thought they'd be a little better, but they've also had a lot of injuries, especially in the defensive trenches. So I don't know. Ask me that question again in a couple of weeks. We'll see how the Aggies do in the next couple of weeks. That'll be more telling, honestly.
I'll start with Friday night. It was 38-7 at half, I believe. I got backdoored.
Even worse.
I know. I got backdoored by the Aggies, so I'm not going to talk about that anymore. It was 38-7, and then Spencer Petras and the offense, they kind of came out there. In your article, Nate Drilling said he gave them like a halftime speech for the ages. They did fight. They lost by 16, being down 38-7. Kind of a tale of two halves. How would you interpret that game?
Well, the biggest thing was the Aggies turned the ball over on back-to-back possessions in the second quarter, gave UNLV a short field every time, and UNLV got 2 touchdowns and a field goal. So 17-0 run on forced turnovers. That was the difference in the game, really.
My next question to you is, and I'm getting off topic with Utah State. This UNLV team, they lost to Syracuse, but I feel like the lesser opponents they've played, they have come out and destroyed them. What did you make about this UNLV team in the first half, and are they maybe as good as advertised?
Well, what I made of them is I think they started the wrong frickin' quarterback at the beginning of the season. This Williams guy has just lit it up ever since he took over the job there. Yeah, I mean, I think it was a perfect game for the Aggies because they have Dampier. They're going to be facing Dampier this week, and Williams is a really good dual threat quarterback who just doesn't make mistakes. I thought, I honestly thought UNLV's defense would be a little better. They did a good job forcing turnovers. I didn't think they'd give up that many yards, but they're very dynamic offensively, and they have some playmakers on defense. They force a lot of turnovers. That's what really impressed me, is they're like plus 13 on the season in turnover margin, and that's why they're 5-1. Good football teams find a way to turn you over and not cough up the ball, and bad teams, well, they commit a crap ton of turnovers.
I'll ask about on Utah State's offensive side of the ball. Spencer Petras, he transferred over from Iowa. He's been able to throw the ball a lot more. The punter is not the MVP. And to piggyback, yeah, we all thought Matthew Klusuka was the wrong quarterback to start. It should have been Malik Williams at UNLV. Given, I think, everything that's happened, we talked to Ike Larson at Football Media Days. I think there was a little bit of frustration on his end on Friday night. But what have you made of Spencer Petras's play thus far? He's thrown for over 1,200 yards, 9 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, but at times he's looked really efficient.
Yeah, well, it was really hard to gauge his play early in the season. The season opener, he got hurt the second quarter, and then he didn't play the next 2 games, and he played against Temple and did some good things, but he looked rusty. But the dude hadn't played a full game since 2002. He ain't that old. 2022. It'd been a long time since Spencer Petras had played a full game. I thought he looked good against Boise State. He actually, one thing he hasn't really showcased much of so far, and I don't know if it's his decision or the offensive coordinator Kyle Cephalo's decision, but he hadn't really thrown the deep ball there. Rarely, if ever, but he did get Jalen Royals on a deep ball against Boise State for a touchdown, and didn't see a whole lot of that against UCLA, but we did see some intermediate deep throws that he put on the money. So I think that's what I'm looking forward to going forward, is because the Aggies have a couple of receivers that can get behind secondaries and make big plays. And so that's what I want to see more of. And we've seen a little bit of that the last couple of weeks.
Rick, do you have anything?
Sure. Yeah. Hey, Jason, Ricky Thompson here. This question I was just kind of asking about the Lobos defense to myself and to Ryan here. And Utah State has pretty similar defensive numbers overall in terms of what they're giving up.
Yes.
And it sounds like they've, obviously had a lot of injuries similar to UNM. Is there anything that Utah State, in your estimation, can actually do schematically or change with the players they have available to actually turn things around? Because right now for New Mexico, we're not seeing much of a change week to week, and we don't know what can actually be done.
Yeah, you know what? One thing I have noticed I did notice against UNLV is the Aggies did get pressure on the quarterback. Ironically enough, that's the positional group that's really injuries has taken its toll on, but they had 4 sacks against that quarterback, and they could have had more. Nate Dreiling was in his Monday press conference today was saying, well, we had 7 or 8 really good opportunities for sacks, but I think the Aggies lack some eye discipline, some setting the edge discipline for sure. That's been one of their biggest problems for several years now, is they fail to set the edge on defense. And I mean, it's hard to have a good defense if you can't set an edge, but we're probably not going to see improvements this week. New Mexico's given up 1 sack the entire season, which is pretty nutty. But I do think that's something they can build on in other games. Some guys have been able to get some pressure on the quarterback, and if they can just eliminate big plays, they've given up a lot of big plays this season. I think. So schematically, I don't know necessarily, but I do think it's been encouraging to see how they've been able to get pressure on the quarterback in recent games.
And I hate to tell you that the 1 sack that UNM gave up last week was because Dampier ran out of bounds on his own accord, and they credited it kind of.
Oh, really?
Sack, so I don't know if I would count that one. I guess looking on the other side of the ball, though, on offense, it looks like they've been fairly successful running the football. Can you just tell us a little bit about their lead running back and how that's been effective for them so far?
Yeah, Rashul Faison is just a really good football player. Showed glimpses of it last season. When he wasn't the feature back, there were basically 3 guys sharing those carries last year. But Devon Booth entered the transfer portal, ended up at Mississippi State, and then Robert Briggs broke his leg in the season opener against Robert Morris, and so now Faison's the guy. Yeah, he's just really good. He's got I did positional previews during the summer, during fall camp, and remember the running backs coach saying he's got this one cut that's just, I forget what adjective he used, insane or something like that. But yeah, he can make people miss. Go back and watch film of him, and he can make people miss. He's got decent speed, but he's a tough runner, and he's patient. I think that's the thing that maybe stands out to me the most about him, is he's very patient. He waits for the blocks to materialize, and is just really, really patient. I think that's what makes him the running back he is. But he can definitely make guys miss in open space.
I asked Shannon Kelly of Nevada Sportsnet like 45 minutes ago or half an hour ago, what the mood is. I mean, Utah State, you see, it's in a small. I've never been to Logan. I'm going to take a guess. It's a college. It's a college town, but Nevada, Reno is kind of really seems to have supported this Wolfpack team that was picked dead last. I think the 2 teams that have been picked dead last have played much better. UNM should probably be sitting at 3-3, but those damn pesky Bobcats of Montana State.
Rat bastards.
Those rat bastards. I would like to see a game there. I'm not knocking them. I really enjoy FCS football.
Yeah, Montana loves their football.
They do. What's the mood been around with the Blake Anderson firing? And then you go to the Pac-12. I mean, I'll ask you about that in a second. But what has the mood been around about Nate Drilling and what he's done with this team, given the circumstances? And I guess much like UNM had a gauntlet of death scheduled to start the season.
Yeah, I think the mood's been pretty good. He's a personable guy, Nate Dreiling is. I've enjoyed the press conferences. I haven't really had a one-on-one with him, but I've enjoyed those press conferences. It's hard for me to really know the mood of the players. All the practices are closed, and when I was doing those interviews during fall camp, I basically show up at the very end. I don't really get to see much, but I think the last couple of weeks have been pretty telling in terms of Utah State could have just rolled over and died in the second half after just getting shellacked in the first half against Boise and UNLV, and chose to come out and actually really battle in the second half. That's just a telltale sign to me that this team does have at least a culture of not giving up, and that there is some belief in one another. So I don't know.
And the move to the Pac-12. I mean, this is not a knock on. I don't care. I give my opinion regardless. And I'm probably harder on UNM, my alma mater, than most other places. But I feel like this has been a lateral move with Utah State and Fresno and Boise State and San Diego State. They've been wanting to leave the conference for years. When I think of the Pac-12, I think of USC and Michigan in the Rose Bowl. I don't think of USC and Michigan in Ann Arbor in early September. I think of UCLA basketball. I think of Arizona basketball, at least how old I am. I mean, it's still probably I'm trying to figure it out, but what about Utah State's move and how has that been perceived, not only maybe by the university, but all, the community and alumni?
I think people have been happy about it for the most part. I know there are a lot of people who feel it's a lateral move, and there's definitely some truth to that. But I think a lot of people personally was hoping maybe there would be some kind of reverse merger with Oregon State and Washington State. But once the four defected, once Fresno State, San Diego State, Boise State, and Colorado State defected, and the Utah State was offered that spot in the Pac-12, I feel they just felt that there was more stability with hitching their wagon to those teams as opposed to some of the remaining teams in the Mountain West. And I'm not saying New Mexico in general, but I think they felt like that was going to be a better move for them, even with some unknowns on what this upcoming TV deal is going to look like for the Pac-12. And then obviously adding Gonzaga. I mean, Utah State, that's kind of what they've hitched their wagon to the last half a dozen years or so, is having a really good basketball program. And now the Pac-12 is bringing in Gonzaga. This is going to be a really good basketball league. Football, I don't know. That one's a lot more unknowns with football, but I think definitely people are feeling very positive about what the Pac-12 is going to look like in basketball moving forward.
You can say what they want. They won a Mountain West Conference title in 2021.
They did. That's true.
Rick, do you have any other final comments or thoughts or questions for Mr. Jason Turner?
Just what has the atmosphere been in the stadium? I don't know what the numbers have been so far as fans showing up, but how have the fans been in the stadium? My parents were at the Lobo game there last week in Albuquerque, and I think it was only about halfway full, but they said there was a lot of excitement in the stands for the Lobos, that they won 2 in a row for the first time in a few years. So I'm just wondering how the fan support is actually at the game.
Actually, I was a little surprised how many fans were there on Friday. It was homecoming, mind you, but it was a Friday night game. There's a lot of stuff goes on Friday night, and high school football, other things going on, and there was over 20,000 people. Maverick Stadium holds 25,000, and so the students there were a ton of students there on Friday. The previous football game before that was Utah, so you knew there was going to be a lot of fans there, and frankly, a lot of Utah fans, so that one didn't surprise me at all. It'll be interesting to see what we have on Saturday, but I was very encouraged by how many fans were there on Friday. And the student section is really supportive.
That's good to hear. I wish they would do the same thing here at UNM. It's topsy-turvy. Last question. Utah State and UNM play on True TV and Max, and then you can get reruns of Practical Jokers afterwards, 2 p.m. on Saturday. Is this going to be Harvard-Yale in 1880, or are we going to see an NBA score?
I have no reason to think we're not going to see an NBA score, right? Both teams allow almost 500 yards a game. I think both scoring defenses are 42.5, something like that. I don't see how
over under is 77.
Right. Yeah. Over under. Our friend who joins the show and who has tons of Vegas, roots, and his uncle worked for the Mirage, Jacob Neff. He texted me at like midnight and he was like, "Hey, the over under on Saturday for Utah State and UNM is 78.5."
I'd be stunned if this is not a very entertaining game, honestly. I think there's going to be a lot of points. I really do.
No, I agree with you. On last second ditch effort, Jason Turner. Jason, thank you very much from the Logan, Utah Herald Journal. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, Ryan. Have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye. I love talking to Jason. He's a funny guy. Really appreciate it. I'm not going to cut to commercial break. About 30 minutes till kickoff between the Jets and the Bills. You see the stuff in the back. I have to watch the Jets regardless. I've always loved them. I saw Fitzpatrick walk off against Brady and the Patriots. If you're ever back east, the Jets game is like a college football game. It's phenomenal. The Giants game is there. I don't know what the atmosphere was last night. I'm sure it sucked my butt. Rick, you are the one who asked the question of the night before we get out of here. Where is it? Here we go. Question of the night, question of the day, question of the evening. Would you rather have Devin Dampier or Diego Pavia as your starting quarterback for the rest of the season? I'm so glad I gave you credit for that, Rick. I'm so glad you came up with that. I want to hear your answer.
And I guess just to clarify, the way I'm asking it is not if Pavia was to start at New Mexico or vice versa. It's just who do you trust more the rest of the season? Who would you rather take is going to have a better end of the season here, not overall resume and all that. And when you look at their statistics, I think Pavia his QB rating is slightly ahead of Dampier. They're both, I believe, top 20 in QB rating though, which is very impressive. Obviously Dampier is the top rated quarterback in the Mountain West. And I just want to reiterate some things that people are saying this week about him being the best quarterback in the Mountain West when I've been saying that for the better part of 3 to 4 weeks. So there's no new takes out there. I've been saying that. We've clearly known this, and I believe in him. So I would clearly take Dampier. I think he's a little more dynamic than Pavia. They have two different types of games. Pavia is more of a war dog out there, is able to take hits and has a different style of play, but you couldn't lose with either of these guys right now. I just wanted to see more what people would say out there, because they're the two favorite Albuquerque QBs. And hell, we could even throw Aiden Armenta in there for ULM, the guy from Albuquerque as well. Won another game for the Warhawks, and Coach Brian Vincent is really instilling a new culture down there. And I think everyone should follow them because they're really a fun team this year as well.
I'm going to go to some of the comments on the answers of the answers that we've gotten because they're fantastic. I didn't see yours, Rick. They should run the boot and leak out Silliman for a pass. I got to go to my man. Oh, go ahead, Rick.
So while you were talking to Ned James, he was just talking about how Silliman, is like a converted lineman that they're just using for blocking purposes. And I've noticed that all year. They're calling him the Rhino back or whatever it is. And I'm all for it. I love it. But I think the other team, much like when Soldier is in, they know the one thing that you're going to do is run the football when Silliman is in there. And he's doing it effectively wearing number 38. But how nice would it be to see Dampier fake that boot again and roll out and see Mr. Silliman just dragging his feet on a little drag or corner out, and Dampier is going to dunk it over some linebacker's head, because eventually this is what we're going to see when Dampier runs the boot. There's going to be a linebacker following him out. So either the running back should go out that way or have the tight end also go out that way. And I think they need to get Silliman a touchdown at some point for all the work he's doing out there.
Well, I loved the Lions. Remembered yesterday. They were out. It was Die Hard with a vengeance. Go ahead, Rick.
But Ned James totally shit on that idea and said that Silliman is like a beached whale.
He called him a beach whale. He called him.
That is rude. I refuse to believe that Silliman cannot catch a football, because he does look more athletic than that to me. And linemen are very athletic, especially if you're somebody pulling out down the line and getting to linebackers on the second level. So I refuse to believe he's a beached whale.
No, it was fantastic that he said beached whale, and then he called him fatty. And the only thing I could think of was Jack Black as Is it Rob Portnoy in? I think he's Portnoy something in Tropic Thunder, where they're the fatties and pass the beans, and they the satirical nature of that movie. Tropic Thunder. What's his name in that? Jeff Portnoy. Excuse me. I thought it. I was not trying to say Dave Portnoy or Rob Portnoy. It's Jeff Portnoy, and he's the fatties too. And they're back farting in the summer. I got to go to my man Miguel Sanchez.
Mr. Hutz, why are you burning all your personal papers?
As of this moment, Lionel Hutz no longer exists. Say hello to Miguel Sanchez.
Rest in peace, Jeff Hartman, all the time. Pavia is a baller that can or won't concede an inch. We have looked great in Lobo uniform. Would have looked great in a Lobo uniform for 4 years, but Danny would have screwed it up anyway. Bullying Alabama is nails. Miguel Sanchez again praising Pavia is not degenerating Dampier, by the way. No, it's not. Dampier is very good in making a huge difference. We should have had both. Reason number 27, Danny is Back to the Future. See, where Danny Gonzalez is going, they don't have any roads. Sean O'Toole. Hey, Sean, thanks for listening to the show. Of course, we'd have Sean O'Toole. I saw people talking about NIL. USFA players are technically our government employees. That's why no NIL. Otherwise, Lockheed Martin could buy them. Army and Navy and OSU like roster. LOL. I didn't get to hit it today, Sean, if you're still watching, but where did I go? It's time for laser logins. I can't not talk about Air Force and not play Kenny Loggins. The drums hit. The drums. It's a banger. It's a banger of a song. My dad owned the VHS, the CD, and the and the vinyl record. Back to some of the comments. Jimmy H. Man. Wow. Okay. Ronnie Chavez. By the way, 7-3, Ronnie. It's a brand new series. UNM needs to get the student body together and do something for them to get them out to the games, and traditions start with the student body, all what Broncos trying to do. Go ahead, Rick.
I couldn't agree more. And I've been holding this in for some time, so I'm going to let it rip here. The social media and marketing that is done around UNM right now doesn't seem up to par with what a lot of other schools are doing. And I think missing out on some type of UNM HAL event that could have been combined with the game last weekend, where you have the HAL at an earlier time in the day, and then you allow students and fans to walk over to the football game. Could you imagine the crowds you could have had at both venues? And I understand it might be a money-making matter or a loss by having the HAL for some reason, which I don't understand how it could be. That's beyond me. But I think you're just missing out on a fan experience. Like Ronnie's talking about, the Utah State student section, like we were just learning about from Jason, is one of the best in the country at basketball. I think they call it the Herd, if I'm not mistaken. Building that type of environment, even when the team isn't as competitive as we're seeing Utah State do, but they're still drawing big crowds. I think you have to create events and create hype around the team, and that comes through marketing and social media and creating things that fans actually want to go to. And Colorado University last week, they had their basketball scrimmage game, inter scrimmage game right before the football game, and they had a whole schedule of events leading up and between the two. So I think having things like that would definitely help, presenting things in a different way. But it's not hard to see why a player from Albuquerque, the recent basketball recruit, did choose Colorado over New Mexico, when you just see some of the things that they're doing at that university compared to Albuquerque. While there is a lot at Albuquerque, and I'm not downgrading it, I just think there's a lot more to promote that's not being taken advantage of right now.
I agree with you. I don't know the reason why there's no Lobo HAL. I don't know if it's a money thing, but if you open it up and if you were to do it after the football game or before,
didn't we just get paid out by the Mountain West?
I mean, I'm
not the budgeter. We were going to have Mr. Dominguez on. Maybe he can. Jalen Dominguez, is that his name? The direct AD.
That's I know Eric was efforting Jalen Dominguez. He would be able to answer those questions. Damn it, man. I'm just a salesman. I'm not an accountant. I avoided math like the Black Plague at UNM. Rick, I agree with you. We talk about it all the time. I'm not here to bash UNM. I think people, there's more to just, sometimes there's more going into the game. Not sometimes, there's always more into the game than the fan buying the ticket and just showing up and you think everything's hunky dory. And that's the country. That's what America is supposed to be, is freedom of speech. And, on a platform like the artist formerly known like Twitter, when, I think of the scene in Full Metal Jacket where the general tells Joker, get behind one for the team for the big win. And I'm not trying to make this political, but we get in a certain day and age, you can't question anything. And I'm not talking about conspiracy theories. I always play devil's advocate, and people don't seem to get that. I am a UNM alumni, and I guess automatically, Rick, you're a UNM alumni. Everybody on this show is a UNM alumni. And I am supposed to just be happy, hunky dory, go Lobo. I covered when I was at the Daily Lobo, we learned, and we didn't report about it, or some of it, a lot of shit that was going on. And I think of Ernie Hudson in Ghostbusters, where he says, he tells the mayor when they get arrested, he goes, I have seen shit that'll turn you white. That's how I feel. I've tried to always look at it objective. I am jaded, and I've said it on this show. I am jaded by certain things that UNM does, and I am jaded by maybe a specific person that works in the media relations department who lied and covered up, my incident with Loxley. With that said, I think there's so much, I don't understand this town because I think there's so much support for the basketball team. I don't get it. It's almost the parking is the same, right? To get to, a football game. You can go back and listen to our interview with Jeff Symbieta, who is the executive director of the New Mexico Bowl. I was walking into the game on Saturday, and I go up the entrance on at the 50-yard line, into the tower. There's a gate at the 25, 30 yards down, that they don't have open. I don't know why if you go elsewhere to bigger schools, it's accommodating. Rick, I'm sorry, I went on a tangent.
No, and I just think the golden opportunity was missed. I don't think it could have been done on Saturday because of the scheduling, but you could have had something for Michael Cooper in conjunction with the Hal, since he's getting inducted into the Hall of Fame. If they did it, the week before last or something before the Hall of Fame ceremony this weekend. And I know they have already inducted Coop, right, I believe, into the Lobo Ring of Honor. Or maybe it's coming up. I don't know. Maybe
they don't retire. They don't retire any jerseys for UNM.
But I believe whatever the Ring of Honor is, that Ruben Douglas and those other athletes.
Oh, the Hall of Fame.
So I'm sure he's in there, but I think they could have done something special with the Hal. If you could have had Coop there, could you imagine how that place would have exploded?
He was at one of the games.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, he was at one of the.
Would have given Lobo fans chills. If they come out there wearing the 70s or 80s jerseys that Coop wore at UNM, can you imagine the merchandise you could sell? Can you imagine how many people would have bought season tickets that night?
Oh yeah, no, I think they've they had Michael Cooper back, and maybe I'm incorrect in this, maybe doing a disservice to him. I think I thought it was an incredibly huge disservice to Robin Cole. That was announced 48 hours beforehand. He was a part of the Steel Curtain. Michael Cooper played for the Showtime Lakers, maybe more significant than the 90s Bulls. I don't know, they were, I could be wrong. That jump, that rivalry and those teams jump sparked, I think, a lot of NBA love. And trying to go back from the UNM bashing, I sometimes wonder if I am a proud alumni. I don't know. I'm more proud to go to St. Pius, and I'm not religious than anything. I don't, it's weird. I don't give that school money. But Rick, changing subjects as we go from the double homicide to the jet skiing squirrel. You're a big Laker fan. I know we weren't alive, but weren't coherent enough to watch it. But your thoughts on Michael Cooper being inducted into the
Yeah, my takeaways.
Basketball Hall of Fame.
Just listening to him last night, being inducted by Pat Riley, legendary coach, Lisa Leslie, player that he coached, and then of course Mr. Magic Johnson, Mr. Twitter himself. It's just a really cool story to hear about the beginnings that Coop came from. Pasadena Community College, like Ned said, he attended also, and then really forming a close relationship with Jerry West once he got that opportunity with the Lakers, and he was almost brought to tears when he was speaking about his friendship with Mr. West and what a loss that really was for him. So just an outstanding career, and one of the few players that is getting inducted, being known as a defensive first player, along with those like Ben Wallace and Dennis Rodman and Dikembe Mutombo, who just passed unfortunately too soon. So really great career by Coop. Unfortunately was a little bit before our time for me to have watched him live. I am familiar with the highlights mostly on the Lakers during those days, but I'm super familiar with his impact on the game. So great to see, and a great speech last night.
Yeah, I listened to some of the speech. I thought it was awesome. I'm not the biggest Laker guy. We'll save that for another conversation, Rick. The early 2000s, I did see him beat the Nets. I love those as much as I can't believe I'm saying this. I loved those. I loved that late 90s, early 2000s 76ers team with Iverson. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole, but, Shaq and Kobe were dominant. I will give them that. And then Big Shot Bob. We appreciate everybody joining us on a Monday, on a random Monday. I don't know, maybe we can keep this going, get guests to recap the weekend. I wanted to give my thoughts on Utah State. I love college football. I am leaving for Las Vegas, Nevada tomorrow with Jacob Neff. We will be at Mountain West Conference and West Coast Conference Media Days Wednesday and Thursday. The women are Wednesday, the men are Thursday. Rick will be out there Thursday. We're hoping to grab a bunch of interviews. I'm looking forward to it. Rick, your thoughts as we head to Vegas?
Super interesting. I think, everyone has put in their votes for the Mountain West Conference, all the media. So it'll be interesting to see those rankings. The Ken Palm rankings came out today, and there's been some early reaction to that, with Boise State leading the way at 45th and Ken Palm, San Diego State, too many surprise at 48, and New Mexico coming in at third at number 62, and Ken Palm followed by Utah State and Nevada to round out the top five there. So I think most are going to have Boise State picked first, and then the next three are kind of be a toss-up based on what I've heard. Tom Moser, Top of the Mountain podcast, Mr. Trone from Aztec Breakdown, that did a fantastic preview that he's selling out there as well of the conference. So I've been listening to as much as I can to prepare for this. I want to try to maybe put out my own ranking tonight before we get over there. But just super excited, grateful to you, Ryan, and to everybody that supports this show, to just giving us this opportunity to go out there and do this. And we're going to be prepared and get some good content. So we're ready to do it, man.
No, looking forward to it. Vegas is now, I guess, my third home. Central New Jersey, Albuquerque, and Las Vegas. And I'm going to those two places 3 times in the next month. I'll be in Vegas twice, and then New Jersey. I haven't shut up about it. I'm excited for it. Hey, special thanks to Ned James, who finally happy to have him on the show this year. He's great. We'll make that more of a thing. Shannon Kelly from Nevada Sportsnet talking Nevada football, and Mr. Jason Turner, because he's living in a dream right now. You're living in one, from the Logan Herald Journal in Logan, Utah. Appreciate his time. Mr. Ed Nunez joining us. Rick, thanks for joining us. Tomorrow night, you and Eric, most likely, I think you're going to be on our talking to Kevin Sweeney from SI. Jacob and I will be on our way to Vegas. Our flight is a little bit in the early evening. So we're going to try to get to a sports book to catch the end of hockey. Rick, thanks for joining late, and I'll talk to you in Vegas.
All right. Thanks, Ryan.
Guys, have a good one.